Story 1. From my most recent breakup, what I have to say and my opinions are more important than yours. He would speak over me at every opportunity, and eventually I took a significant issue with it and he dropped this on me. Story 2. She used to throw things at me like picture frames and other stuff. Other times, she would back me into a corner and push me while telling me to hit her. She is very confrontational and nasty. I left her because of it, but ended up coming back a few days later because I never fully trusted her with our son. She is too temperamental and ignorant. Story 3. I had a partner who got so angry one night out when we walked past a group of girls who would have been 18 to 20 years old. I was 25 and he was 28 for real because of how they were dressed, that he punched a wall in the street we were walking down. I was like, "What the heck? What's wrong?" He said, and I quote, "That makes me so angry seeing women dressed like that because you know they are asking for it, they just are. They want my attention and men's attention, but as soon as they get too much, they cry about it. Stupid little sluts." I had been with him for 3 months. Never heard him talk like this before. I just kept walking up the street and burst into tears. I never saw him again after that night. I literally recoil thinking about him touching me now. Story 4. Fall out of love with me. There's no way in hell I'm forcing anyone to stay in a relationship if they no longer love me just for the sake of my feelings. Yes, it will suck, but they deserve to be happy. And if that won't be with me and I truly love them, then I should let them go be happy. Story 5. I want to have kids. I do not, and this is not something that can be compromised on. I refuse to have a kid, and trying to have a relationship with someone who wants one isn't fair to them. Story 6. Speaking to me in a way that is disrespectful. My dad can speak to my mom in a really disrespectful way, to a point where I've had to talk to him about it several times, and I've seen what it has done to her confidence. I have also seen friends being treated terribly by their partners, and I would rather just be single. I will always be supportive and respectful to my partner, and I expect the same back. Story 7. So many things, but the thing I will look out for first in future relationships, in order to avoid the abuse I've experienced. Someone that consistently prioritizes things over me. In my marriage, it started with video games, and then it was her coworkers' opinions of her, and then it was friends, and then it was recreational drugs, but not an addict, as in doesn't fit the diagnostic criteria for it. Then it was cell phone games and social media, etc. If your partner is the last thing on your list of priorities, then I am not willing to be your partner. Story 8. This is a lot more tame than the rest of these comments. But like excessive gamer rage and not knowing when to stop is a deal breaker. I can understand being in the game completely and just getting frustrated with the game a little bit. Like even I occasionally slam my hand on my desk. That's just what adrenaline does. But screaming, throwing things, etc., that's not okay. And it just shows that you're not emotionally mature enough to be an adult. I can handle it maybe once or twice, but that's it. I hate when people are like that, and when they don't know when to stop, that's another thing that pisses me off. Story 9. If they are not willing to learn and improve themselves, I have seen so many people say, "I just do not know how to cook," or "I cannot fix that," when we literally have Google at our fingertips. To me, it shows they are lazy and are not willing to go above and beyond for their significant other. Story 10. I currently have one cat. She has survived 2 long-term relationships, 6 moves, a flood, 2 surgeries, and was rescued off the street as a kitten by my hands. Believe me when I say that cat comes first in every possible sense. If you hurt or threaten my cat, or use my cat as an ultimatum, you can go ahead and see yourself out the door. Story 11. Having a shopping addiction, I don't even care if they inherited $100 million and can afford to waste it. I just hate stuff that's acquired with no clear long-term or consumable, such as food, purpose. Call it clutterphobia if you will. Piles of unused stuff drive me insane. Story 12. I once dated a man, I'm from the United States, who said, "I'm a Republican, but if we accidentally got pregnant, I'd be okay with abortion. I'm pro-choice and a Democrat," but that statement from him was very interesting to me. It showed me that he only believes what he does because it benefits him directly. While this is human nature a lot of the time, it was also a red flag to me that he was selfish. Story 13. When I was 21, male, I got engaged to my girlfriend, 20, whom I shall designate as K. We had been dating for a year and a half, and it was pretty good. I'm a musician, and she was this kind of free spirit girl with a very non-judgmental attitude. So it worked. So I thought I should mention here that her mom was a viciously shrewish woman who hated me for being a musician and apparently for simply existing. Kay would always stick up for me because Mommy Dearest would lay into us with a storm of hate and shade. So yeah, I decided to get her a ring and ask if she wanted to get engaged. She did. She was very happy. For roughly 2 weeks. Then when I went to pick her up for a Friday night date, she says, "Hey, let's just go get some drinks somewhere quiet so we can talk." Sure, no problem, big problem. So we can talk. Meant so she could talk and I could listen, preferably taking notes for the pop quiz that was sure to follow soon. For about 45 minutes, Kay proceeded to lay down the law for when our engagement became marriage. Here are the man's duties. Here are the woman's duties. Woman's duties? Why, doing house stuff. Man's duties? Quit that band and stop trying to be a rock star. Get a real job like a real man with her dad's real estate company, which Kay had already been kind enough to set up with Daddy Dearest with no need to consult me. Start saving money to buy a house. Translation: I needed to buy her a house. As my brain began to reel, filling with visions of Stepford wives going on a murdering spree against men who play guitar and sing, Kay went on a nice little rant way out in left field. She had some things to say about black people. For some reason, though, she had trouble pronouncing black. It kept turning into, and when I lovingly tried to help her out with her ignorance regarding the more subtle nuances of language, she turned rabid. I mean barking, foaming rabid, telling me in no uncertain terms that I was to terminate my friendship with several individuals of the highly melanated community with whom I often played music. Holy sh**t, what happened to your ring? Let me see that for a second, Kay hun. I interrupted her because a couple more words of that filth, and I would have been really upset, right in her lap. Kay hands me the ring. "I don't see anything wrong with it," she says. "I don't either, at least now I don't, because it is no longer on your finger. I swear that not only has your mother possessed your body, but she or you has apparently murdered Kay, with whom I was in love. I am not in love with you, so check it out. We're done, and I'm going to take you home and then go home and play my guitar." And I did. I took her home and left and never saw her again. Because oh my goodness, that was creepy, scary psycho stuff. This cool, laid-back, sort of hippie chick morphed into her mom's demonic alter ego, with the addition of a literally cancerous dose of racism thrown in, right in front of my face. I guess her screen personality of the cool hippie girl was no longer needed after I got her a ring and we became engaged, so she just collapsed it. What remained belonged in a horror movie. By the time I got home, I was actually shaking from the realization that I didn't just dodge a bullet, I dodged a couple of sidewinders that were going right up my six. Story 14. Complete disrespect of boundaries. If they circumvent a boundary simply because they don't like it and make you feel unreasonable or crazy for having said boundary, you are in for a rough ride in the future. If you see this early on in a relationship, run, my friends, run far and run fast. Story 15. Being consistently contemptuous. The incessant wave of belittling and malicious criticisms, which don't amount to much by themselves, but when repeated over and over, grind your morale and will to interact more and more. However, when you push back, you're the villain because it's you who is now ignoring, stonewalling, or not being receptive to criticism. It's emotionally exhausting. Story 16. When they put you solely responsible for their feelings, keyword solely. Like, yes, partners are responsible for caring for each other, but at the end of the day, I don't see how a relationship functions properly unless both people take ownership of their own emotions. Today, with a lot of talk of trauma and love languages, there are people using it as an excuse to offload their feelings onto other people, and I just can't be in a relationship with that. Story 17. Smoking cigarettes is a deal breaker for me. I have spent my whole life dealing with my chain-smoking mother. I cannot stand the horrendous stench to the point where if a partner started smoking, I would immediately end the relationship. I am not putting up with that crap. Story 18. There are many issues like cheating, most of which involve broken trust. One issue would be financial infidelity, which involves lying about spending or debts. Another issue would be lying about how one spends their time. If someone claims to be working late every night, The worst case scenario is if they are cheating, but it isn't much better if they're going out with friends. Aside from trust issues, a lack of respect would be the other significant issue. It's hard to be a partner with someone who doesn't respect you or whom you don't respect. Story 19. Giving me suggestions on how to change my appearance so they can find me more attractive is a complete deal breaker. You either like me as I am or we break up. I'm not changing my appearance for anyone. Story 20. Name calling that is not done in good-natured joking or flirting. No matter how angry you are, you should never call your partner hurtful things. Arguments need to be civilized, and do not call for inflammatory actions. Story 21. My first husband constantly criticized me, belittled me, put me down, and destroyed my dreams. By the time we split, I couldn't have cared at all if he cheated on me. There are so many worse things you can do. Story 22. Yelling she was going to kill me in front of our child and proceeding to beat me. That was it for me. She still can't understand why I broke off the 6-year relationship because of that. She's a narcissist, a manipulator, and an eternal victim. Story 23. Criticism, contempt, stonewalling, and defensiveness will kill any relationship. Story 24. This will be buried, but my ex-girlfriend, when we first began dating, got invited by a friend who was married to Italy. The friend wasn't a close friend, and it was a work trip, and my girlfriend just needed to pay for a plane ticket. I said how exciting for her. The truth began to trickle out. My girlfriend and her married friend were invited to stay at one of the Italian coworkers' villas in Italy with him and his friends. Then it comes out the friend is not happily married and hooked up with the Italian coworker on a previous trip. I told my girlfriend that it was her choice, but I didn't like the idea. I didn't like the idea of her going with this friend on a trip to cheat on her husband and also stay with guys she didn't know. Story 25. Your own inability to understand what a deal breaker is. Ignoring your instincts, the ones that say, I don't think this person is curious with me, generous with me, emotionally available with me, honest with me. The future with them will be difficult and full of little betrayals of self that you willingly accept. Never put lipstick on a pig. Actions have feelings. How did that make you feel? Deal breakers are often an accumulation of small things that you are responsible for making sense of. Story 26. Treating retail workers, waiters/waitresses, and service people in general disrespectfully and trying to excuse it as it's their job is unacceptable. I've walked out on multiple Tinder dates because of this behavior. I can't stand it. Story 27. Lack of humility and never admitting fault. Lack of kindness. You have to have kindness as a value. And this one I didn't expect would become so important to me in my younger years. Dismissing scientific consensus and process. I know too much about how unhinged people get when they dismiss experts because they've absorbed too much propaganda. To me, it goes hand in hand with knowing what you don't know, the limits of your intelligence. Story 28. You were the best I could get, and I felt like time was running out, so here we are. Or any variation of letting me know they settled for me. I would rather never be in a relationship than to know my partner is with me just because they do not want to be alone, and I was available. Story 29. Any kind of emotional blackmail, a year and a half of suicide threats over everything from not wanting to get married less than a year into the relationship to not remembering her favorite animal, is not something I want to go through again. Story 30. Being rude to everyone or anyone just because you think you can, or even should, is not acceptable. Chewing with your mouth open is also considered ill-mannered. Thinking that you have to be either extremely intoxicated or heavily under the influence to have fun is a misconception. Being unapologetically messy, to the point of leaving random trash and items out for days, is inconsiderate. Story 31. Not liking animals in any way, shape, or form, from simple disgust to actual fear, I can't live with it. I have a friend whose girlfriend is afraid of cats and dogs. There's no traumatic event or anything. She just is. When I bring it up, she says it's a matter of sanitation. It still bugs me, but I let her be as long as she's not hurting them. Story 32. A long time ago, a girl I was dating told me she hates dogs. I had 2 dogs at the time. Without hesitation, I said, Well then, our relationship isn't going anywhere. She responded, why? She genuinely didn't know. Story 33. Lie about liking things I like just to pretend you have something in common. Lie about losing their virginity and then finding out they were still a virgin. Use you as a cover to hide the fact he actually wanted to be with men. Story 34. My ex-boyfriend slapped my 1-year-old across the face last night to provoke me into hitting him. For 3 years, I've gaslighted myself into wanting a good relationship for us, and I've stuck around. Today, I filed a petition for an injunction against him, and he's calling me every name in the book demanding to know where his son is. But I'm done. You will never hit my baby again.